I'm Paddy Critchley. Thank you. And there's Rory.
And I'm Sara Greavu. And we and welcome and thanks so much for coming tonight. We're just going to launch right in, I think. Yep. Yeah. So we're going to start off with a reading.
Yeah.
Paddy's going to do.
We should have been one of these in your seats, but I'm just going to read out. I asked a friend of mine, Evan Kelly, to. We kind of wanted to collaborate for a good while, but Evan's a very good friend, and he's a great artist and activist. And he wrote this lovely piece that just kind of started from just that we had a chat in my studio there. Me and Dad were up one day, and Evan came in and had a chat. I was just explaining what the idea of the performance is going to be, had a look at some of the paintings, just kind of had a lot of discussion around, but it was just a nice little chat in there. And just going to read this out because it just really kind of, it struck me in the heart, but I just thought it was really beautiful. But maybe we were just saying it might be nice to kind of hear someone read it while you kind of just look around the room. So, The Royal You by Evan Kelly. Do you know how much I love the colour purple, how much I crave it? I don't think you ever thought to ask. In your hands I felt like an automation, a glass holding a collection of numbers, acronyms and nouns. Before I met you, I wanted to peel the shadows off the night streets. I wanted to take the tungsten sprockets from the lights above the paths and swish it around my mouth like an amber lozenge. I wanted my teeth to glow and my words to also. And wasn't it in that Parisian restaurant, a trip planned on my behalf, by the way, that it was you who smacked the pasta out of my fork? That's not how you do it, you said, eyeing around the room in embarrassment. This is how you do it. I was always somewhat scared of restaurants before that, and I certainly was after. They all saw, all the multitudes inside me did anyway. We talked about Turgenev on the floorboards of your Georgian house. I didn't think people lived in them. I thought they were just for show. The bulbous front gives hope, gives space to all the hopes and dreams you could ever hope to have. Isn't there a correlation between high ceilings and a high opinion of what you can achieve? The floorboard squeaked under our feet as he deferred to share your knowledge of Russian literature with me. It was just any other day for you, but for me it would have meant a lot. Maybe I pronounced some names wrong. I'm sorry about that. I'd only read those words before. That said, it wasn't apt of you to stay quiet when he told me I'm not where I'm from. He was drunk maybe. He stank of dead lager anyway, but he shouldn't have said that. I took my accent out as if from a box. Look at my O's, long and deep, proper Limerick. And all my sentences go up at the end. How could I not be from where I'm from? It's obvious, no. It's the words you use, not how you use them, he said. More incisive than I expected from a drunkard. It hurt me. And you just stood there and said nothing, and I felt like ditching my words and dealing with them. I didn't. I couldn't. This fire took 26 years to burn bright. I felt so small. I went on to mention art oil in my thesis, though I hope you'll be proud of me on that count. Don't you remember before we even knew each other, you came in as I was selling Christmas trees, and we ended up talking about theatre of cruelty, as you picked out the most awkward to get to tree at the very back. You asked me if I'm an artist, and I said yes, quietly. It was the first time I accepted the label. The warehouse felt like the only place I could say it. I am an artist, yes, but don't tell anyone. I brought the tree to your car. I wish I could have left with you, but my walkie-talkie crackled with orders of back to work. I started to believe it. I scribbled sketches of the weather on receipts. Wind, rain, clouds and hail, the works. No better place to explore the elements from either. But I could never draw. and I spent nights crying about the distance between my aspirations of painting and my retrograde ability. No, my sketches were in words. Black bookie pen poetry layered over purchases of concrete, drill bits and caulk, of rhododendrons and something else. Every pocket in my Snickers pants was overflowing with similes and metaphors. Sometimes I had to put them away. Sometimes it felt like I was overstepping my role. And so I'd shave a couple syllables off here and there, not sticking my head above the parapet, as you once told me. Then I met the German. I knew you didn't like him instantly. It was very clear. We went on walks through the hinterlands to escape the suspicion you put on us, and we talked and talked and talked. Surplus value in handball alleys. Husks of burnt-out cars and primitive accumulation. I saw the circumstances that made me flicker in his words, and so I started going back to my words, to the colours and shapes and concepts I had shed from shame, picking them up like broken pieces of some larger whole as I retracted my steps. They were all still where I left them, although some were rusted and dusty. It was around this time I called into your house and asked for all those syllables back. You didn't give them over easily, and that was kind of the end of it for us. Now I take pride in my words. Now I wear the label easily. Now all my multitudes congregate in harmony. Now I demand a stage and a big curtain reveal to boot. Like a circus lion. Only they're asking what colour you want the curtain to be, sir. They say it's important. Isn't it obvious? Make purple like a blooming thistle in the morning sun on a weekend towards the end of August. Make it purple like the lavender in my grandmother's garden. Make it purple like the band of indigo in that rainbow on Bull Island on that cold day in October. You don't understand? I thought you wouldn't. Just make it purple, okay? Just make it purple. It's by Evan Kelly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's great.
I wonder, because this painting is framing us, behind us, it's whatever, visually framing us, but it also maybe frames the exhibition. Yeah. And I wonder if you could talk us into this one to start as well.
Yeah. So this is called Black Salt Bay for Padder, but so it's a painting I made this time last year. In my studio is just kind of through the door there, and I've been working here for a year. But I lost my best friend last year, and in an accident in New Zealand, in a water accident. But we kind of parted ways before that. He went travelling. I was leaving Limerick and moved to Dublin. And I suppose, this painting kind of means an awful lot to me because I started it around January last year after he was buried on New Year's Day. And it was kind of all I had. Most of our friends weren't in my immediate kind of circle. So it was just from memories of Padder and thoughts about our lives spent together. And it was kind of, I suppose it's an ode to Padder Táthar, who would have been at any openings I ever had, or we graduated together and lived together kind of during college times. And so, I suppose it's my nod to Padder and his life. But it's important for me because it kind of, the work that I made for this started just kind of a lot of it just before that, and up until just before the show. So it's kind of the center of the show for a reason, because it's a lot of this is I have Padder in my mind, kind of.
I mean, we're in a room full of paintings that you've made, but also a room that was painted by you.
Yeah. And
I would encourage, if anybody hasn't seen the film that was made of the performance that Serhi, who's here tonight, made, that shows the kind of run up to the opening of the exhibition and the durational performance
Yeah.
that Paddy did. If you haven't seen it, please have a look on YouTube. Because I think that I mean, there's a long history, I suppose, of labor being depicted in painting, but the way that you think about the labor of painting and all the jobs associated with it, the kind of continuum and overlapping set of ideas between the house painter, the fine art painter, like also the gallery technician, the sign painter, and the way you think about overlapping ideas about craft, skill, integrity, like material integrity as well as a kind of ethical integrity, I think are somehow pulled into that performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose the show, like, it's called Painter, and kind of a bit of a brief even insight into the name. It was kind of just two things that I done, painted pictures, and like that kind of have been painted with, my dad is here tonight, kind of painted with him when I was younger and still kind of do odd bits for him, and as well as my own kind of painting jobs. But the title actually kind of came to me about 3 years ago. I had made a painting of the record room in the commercial pub in Limerick, a corner of the record room that we would go to every weekend, and it was a very kind of a very welcoming place, full of lovely people and kind of artists, and it used to show great bands. But anyway, it was a very important place just for me. And I made the painting, and Rocky, that owned the pub, bought the painting. And in the meantime of him buying the painting, I ended up painting the downstairs toilets of the commercial as well. And when I went in, to get paid, there was the lad said, Rocky has an envelope behind the bar, and it just said Paddy Painter/Painter. So he paid me for the two jobs at the one. So I suppose I just was thinking about that, and I was like, that's kind of gas, isn't it? It's funny, but just as it was going, I am interested in both equally, and like that, even when it comes to, like you're talking about craft, like even putting canvases together, priming them, like a lot of that is, I kind of find as fascinating as actually painting pictures. And then, like the kind of idea of sign painting, I kind of, for me, they're all equally as important. So the show was kind of exploring that, I suppose, and kind of seeing maybe, the idea for the performance was that kind of idea of maybe would it be absurd to ask people to watch paint dry as I'm painting the walls as a performance. But that's kind of what I do, and if both of them are on the same kind of a hymn sheet in my head, wouldn't that be interesting to exhibit or show? So that's kind of where that is, I think.
I mean, there's a whole, like, I know that we've talked before about like cutting in, the process of cutting in. So like that line up there, you didn't tape it, you cut it in.
Cut it in, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's a whole, maybe I'm revealing something about like my algorithm. There's a whole like online genre that's like satisfying material practices like that. Like you could just sit and like veg out and watch something like people like cutting in for ages. So there's something that's like quite, I feel also like there's something about like a contemporary condition of like, maybe we in our lives are a little bit removed from those material practices sometimes, and so we love to watch them take place. Yeah.
I even look at them. They're the reels that I get on my phone as well. Yeah, those ones and kind of construction reels. But absolutely. I think it's also like it's like that idea of like a word that was in my head about this show kind of as well as repetition, but it's like doing something so many times, getting good at it. It kind of allows for other things to happen mentally, like cutting in might look good for other people, but like when you're doing it, you're just getting through a job. But I kind of find that doing that painting allows me a thing to do over a long period, quite uninterrupted, and you can kind of, I think about painting pictures then.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that, yeah, but as maybe I could also just cash in on the reels as well and get some more. Just thinking about that as well, actually. That's a good idea. But no, yeah, that's a...
Like you plan the next painting as you're doing that?
Kind of.
Because your body, I suppose, is
Yeah.
doing something similar.
Yeah. Or even, I think, a lot of the time spent in the studio, or like, I kind of don't think about painting before I make paintings. I just kind of react, or go into the studio maybe with a colour and go from there, or a lyric or something in the news, or something that's bothering me or something, and just kind of paint. And I suppose asking questions or trying to make sense of things happens painting walls or whatever, I think. And I find that that's kind of just how it has worked. Yeah, it is. It's kind of meditative to an extent, which is, I think it's the perfect place for me to think about the work like that.
But you also, I feel like you have an array of references that you're pulling into these paintings as well, that shape them in terms of their subject, but also, I mean, to my mind, shape them in terms of their like material or formal qualities as well. And I wonder, there's a poem that we've talked about before that has appeared in your work over a number of years, and I wondered if you would be up for reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope there's like a couple versions online that I pulled. So there's one that's kind of up here with translation. But this is the poem Ugnias by Brendan Behan.
Brendan Behan, yeah.
Are you happy with the other one? You can see we didn't do a lot of prep for this.
Emma and Reen and stuff can correct me now if the Irish is wrong. Ugnias. So this is called Ugnias by Brendan Behan, which means loneliness. Blas mar dov, heish báisteach, bhar an sléibh, I dustin frisún, fédal fuair an trénach, cogur gaire Bert Lannan, don anaran. So it's kind of a translation of that, kind of fairly loosely, is like the taste of blackberries after the rain, on top of the hill, in the silence of a prison, the train's cold whistle, the excited whispering of lovers to the lonely. So, I made a painting kind of about this, and this has been kind of in my head for years, just about, Brendan Behan has been a big inspiration for me in many ways, just his life and work, but also a painter decorator. And like I make a lot of work kind of in the last year or more, just kind of about having gone back trying to learn Irish. Has had a huge impact on me in many ways, but when I was looking at Brendan Behan, kind of growing up with kind of learning Irish, but also when he was in prison learning Irish, and then during the conflict in the north, the like emergence of like jail talks and people really using it as a kind of form of resistance and kind of what that means. So they'd be things that I would be very passionate about, and I think are very important to me. And I think they have, in roundabout ways, sometimes it's kind of quite abstract thoughts, but they make their way into paintings in different ways. But I just thought this was a really beautiful poem about someone experiencing life from behind a jail in a jail cell, and how it kind of continues, like Paddy passing away, life continuing. Lucky's probably at home on the bed doing exactly what he's doing there. But I suppose I kind of think that's how I think about painting. It's kind of just me reacting to life, but these references that I'm passionate about make their way into work, kind of like with this painting with Fuchsog, which is, it's kind of full of different references, but one of the main things, Fuchsog comes from Bobby Sands' prison writings, and this especially comes from Skylark, which is what Fuchsog is, but the piece is called Skylark, Sing Your Lonely Song. And just, I suppose, the power of art, kind of transcending the likes of even captivity, or, you know, these people kind of spending years in jail and still making art and using it for what they needed it to do, I think. So I think that kind of is in my mind a lot. Yeah.
There's another reference from Brendan Behan that we've talked about a bit from Borstal Boy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot in that,
Yeah.
I suppose. Maybe I won't read, but maybe we can just talk about, for instance, the way that Borstal Boy, I mean, there's loads in it about being a painter and being the son of a painter.
Yeah.
Born in the pot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also about work and about class. And there's a conversation, for instance, where he's talking about meeting another young man who is a painter in England, and finding this, like, some kind of a connection, like a brotherhood that's essentially is about class.
Yeah.
That even though he's come to England as a young Republican, you know, wanting to, I suppose, hate the people that he's meeting, but finds this connection through class. And then they talk about their love of the book, The Ragged Trousered Philanthropist.
Yeah.
Which you say you found your way to that book through.
Through Borstal Boy, yeah. And it kind of changed everything, really, that book. And I remember the exact moment of reading, because it's written as, oh, have you heard it? The two of them are chatting. Have you heard about, and they mentioned the Painter's Bible and the Ragged Trousered Philanthropists. And I remember reading it and just thinking, that's a mouthful and a half. What's that about? And trying to find it in shops, ordering it like within days, and then actually been in the pub, and my friend Sean McKenna from Dundalk, a singer from Dundalk, I said, oh, just by chance, I'm only after finishing Borstal Boy, and the immediate reply was, did you get the Ragged Trousered Philanthropists? So I was like, yeah, I think I was the only person that kind of, at the time, I was like, I thought no one would have picked up on that, but seemingly that's a thing. But yeah, it was something kind of changed everything for me, because even thinking about class and things before that, I think I read that maybe four years ago or something, but it basically just explained, I suppose, by using house painters as the people on a job in Mugsborough, in Hastings, wherever it's set, like conditions on the job. Just people talking about painting was kind of cool, but then going on to, like, in a very accessible way, explain the basics of socialism, and even worker to worker trying to explain what it is. So, like, around having their cup of tea, like arguments about it, and oh, that'll never work, and oh, but it can work, but yeah, I just remember really kind of had an impact on kind of how I thought, and since then kind of see the world, like kind of around things like class, and like I got a week, 2 weeks teaching. I get it every January in Laois, and today the people were talking about like renting and how it's a bad kind of state of affairs today with renting and stuff, and because I was the younger person there, they're saying it's very tough for ye. But like even in the book, they talk about the rent being a half of people's income, whereas like that book's written over 100 years ago, and now the rent is like half at least of people's incomes. So it's very relevant today.
I mean, I guess that's what the book was intended to be. It's still doing the job that it was intended to do, like to tell the story of class, or convey a political idea in terms that make sense to everybody. Like, whatever, you're over your cup of tea, taking a break from your painting, and you take the bread represents the resources of the earth, and somebody owns the knives that are the means of production, and like little allegories or little stories that are
which is it's a really important thing to do, because it's really important stuff to know. So I think that kind of passing down or sharing of information in that way is like, it's just really, really important. Remember having a chat one time, this person kind of quoting like kind of stuff from Marx's books and stuff to me, and I was kind of like, look, I kind of find it hard to get my head around a lot of that, but it doesn't mean I should feel bad about myself. It just means there is other ways to help people along, and I guess that book just kind of is what stuck with me anyway. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this set of paintings here, this triptych? Or
so this was made, I started, the two outside pieces were actually originally one painting that I made 2 years ago, and we just were installing here, and I wanted to have the centerpiece in it, but it wasn't working, and we were swapping things in and out, and Eve kind of placed it like this, and it just made so much sense. The centerpiece is the reference for that image that I'm working with is in the Museum of Free Derry, and it's from a poster that just is black, the skulls are white, and then in fairly kind of block printing kind of lettering, it just says "Remember Derry." And it's about Bloody Sunday, and the title is just "Remember the Spring." So it's quite like an important piece for me, because sometimes as an artist, I find like even with my paintings, you can only say so much. It's quite a sad painting, but I think it's that idea of remember the spring. Like, we're only getting there now with February coming, another February. I paint, there's not many of them in this exhibition, but daffodils every spring when they come up. This idea of rebirth, but with that also this idea of what happened on Bloody Sunday. And how every spring comes back, there's rebirth, life goes on, but this thing happened. And I just think I've been working with this drawing and painted this kind of formation of the 13 skulls for a while, but I just think it's such a striking image. And
and it reappears
here with the daffodils kind of behind it. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the portraits in this exhibition? Because that feels like maybe a little bit of a move. From your previous practice.
They're I'm Paddy. They're just friends and people that'll sit for me. I always wanted to paint people and never kind of did, and I really enjoy painting from life, and I think like the essence of all of these paintings, be it this is a kind of about people, or my life with people in it, and kind of how I'm reacting to them and how they make up my life. But so I started painting people a couple of years ago, and I've painted a lot of people, and they kind of just felt a little bit like outside of what my work was doing, so I was trying to bring that in, but I think this painting here of Cormac playing the flute. It's a friend of ours from Limerick, Cormac Hughes, and Cormac said he'd sit for me someday. We're in his studio, he's sitting on the chair I'm in here, and he was just playing the flute for a couple of hours, and I was painting him. But it's a really beautiful thing to do, is just to paint someone, because, like, I don't know really. It's just, I really like doing it anyway. But it's kind of capturing someone, and it's capturing how I see them and how you're feeling there and then, and it's kind of the idea of that, like, that amount, whatever amount of time you're there with someone, like, yeah, I really feel a connection to it, and I'm not even sure what they're saying or like what they're doing for me as an artist, but I feel very attached to them, and I feel that they're doing something. And even like that, I know I'm bringing it back to this, but I had done a painting like this of my friend Paddy, and then when someone passes on, it kind of brings the thing to a whole new, like, level. It kind of, this is something it's not a picture, it's not a memory, it's actually, this was the two of you together on your own generally for a series of hours, and then you're left with this thing that has a kind of life to it. But yeah, there's often little references. There's a nod to Paddy Graham there at the back. It's kind of tacked up on my studio wall from the show Transfiguration, and it just happened to be on the studio wall, but it's also, Paddy's like an artist that kind of comes up for me a lot in just, I suppose, trying to use art to make sense of life at its very essence. But I think that's kind of what the portraits are doing as well. They're also quite like domestic people. I've been kind of thinking as well. They're just kind of people doing their thing, and it's that kind of like, there's no airs or graces about anyone. Yeah, they're just friends, but they're all people that are important to me in one way or another.
And animal portraits.
And animal portraits, yeah. Yeah, it's Lucky the dog. And that's actually my mum that's here. It's her arm there. It's kind of a bit, it's worked pretty rough, but it's, yeah, I suppose it's like, if it's literal or not, it's kind of, yeah, me making work about my life in many ways.
There's something about the way you describe that, like the relational within the portrait, that also makes me think of the way that you organize this exhibition, or this, like the performance that you did to bring about the exhibition. That it's about the relational as well, like that moment of you painting, people joining you, cups of tea, the radio's on. You're like, it's like somehow distilled or instilled into the work itself. I guess it's down to art. That's kind of, I guess, it in a nutshell as well. It's just, it's the work I make, and it's down to art, and it's very important to me. Yeah. How are you holding up?
Not too bad actually. Yeah. Grand. Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to maybe put it out to questions, or do people have things? Yeah?
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the role of, I guess, a sense of nationalism or national identity, a sense of language, a sense of home, and how those things relate to each other in your work, and for you personally, maybe. Because there are layers that I see of this kind of almost like the sort of micro to the macro in terms of experience and identity, from immediate surroundings of the home to maybe a sense of a community, then a sense of what it might be to speak Irish right now. Those kinds of questions, and I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and I think about this a lot. I think the answer to that at its core is, I will only kind of make work about what I really understand and know, what's true to me, and would never, I would never make work about something that I wasn't entirely invested in, or that I could speak 100% kind of true to myself about. So I think that's kind of how I view art making as a whole. And I think in many ways, like for example, the paintings of my dog, this painting about Bloody Sunday, I think they're things that I'm interested or that are a part of my life. But when it comes to like this idea of Irish identity, like for example, I haven't made loads of work outside of Ireland. So maybe I think, and I think maybe a move in a bit would be a very good thing for me as an artist, because that has been something, and it's also been something people comment on a lot. It's like, oh, your work is quite Irish. I'm like, well, this is kind of all I know at the minute. But in terms of like that at present in Ireland, like I don't think it's not really trying to convey, say, like a message of Irishness, for example. It just kind of is what it is. Does that answer? Yeah.
It's about lived experience.
Yeah, and like that, it's like, because it's like a quite immediate response. It's just, it kind of comes across as like the people I grew up with are quite close to me in my life. The dog, things I'm reading. Irish language. I've met some lovely people, like even in the room tonight, just since I started. But that's like something that I didn't have growing up. That was obviously taken away from us. And there's, I suppose, throughout the work, that idea of like really detesting injustice as a whole, and these are kind of maybe things that I can actually do with my life that can maybe make a tiny difference. But if learning or trying to learn Irish where that wasn't a feasible thing for loads of people, that's kind of where that has started to come from and has become part of something. One of my teachers over here now, he's after coming late. Gurma had the walk. Come to cabin too. Sound.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about that, the portrait of Gav sending the text.
Yeah.
It looks like there's another kind of image that was cut off or something. Was it painted over a different one, or do you or?
Is it there's a bit of a kind of a smudging brown thing?
It looks like
up the top. It's actually what's behind him is one of my paintings that he's sitting in front of, and then behind that is actually another painting that's in a stack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So like the Paddy Graham reference, for example, look, people really are kind of looking into that big time. But for many of these things, it was just on the wall. I love Paddy Graham, I think he's a great painter, but it was kind of on the wall when he was, the lettering that's there, that was also on the wall. It had to do with sign painting job. That was so that's kind of, a lot of it is fairly, just paint and stuff.
Paddy's, the title is Painter, and you talked to us about it, but when I looked at it first as well, I was like, Painter, and I kind of got the reference, but it was also, you're a bit of like a painter's painter. And I've, even though I'm not a painter, I've described you, Paddy's the absolute Paddy is a painter's painter. In the sense, not that he's only for painters,
Yeah.
You're extremely skilled at working paint, right? Kind of like in your picture painting, can't cast judgment on your wall painting as much.
Yeah.
But like, I'm kind of wondering about like, so if you're answering Alice there about like your relationship to what you paint is quite immediate in the sense of personal experience. I wonder what your relationship is to kind of art history and things like this. You know, like this painting of the dog here and your man's arm. Like it's really striking also where we come into the place, but it's compositionally just incredible, and it really anchors the room on the way you lay it out. But how do you position yourself, or not position yourself, but politically or something, how do you relate to the work of other painters historically mix in the present. Where do you see yourself sitting in the world of painters, I guess?
Yeah, don't really know, to be quite honest. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think about this a lot, and like, in terms of where I see myself as a painter, like, for example, I've been thinking about painting in Dublin just since I moved here a lot, and a lot of the shows that I'm seeing, and a lot of the painting that I'm seeing, and I kind of feel like a little bit other, or a little bit, I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm still kind of working on that, I think. I don't really know where I'm fitting in, and I also kind of don't really think about that, because I'm not sure. I think, yeah, like, what are kind of other painters doing now? I appreciate some of the painting that I'm seeing, but I think I'm using paint is kind of what I know. I'm able to use this thing. It's kind of been there all my life. It helps really enjoy it, but it's kind of like, for me, there's quite like it's not narrative, but it's kind of I mean, for example, Paddy Graham, I think, is a good link there for me, because it's what Paddy's trying to do with paint, or with canvas, with those like raw materials, if it's ripping it or kind of reworking stuff, and kind of bearing, I suppose the line that I kind of think about is like bearing witness to, but yeah, I'm not certain, like, is that all right?
You also, I think there's something that you do where you sort of you zoom in and zoom out a little bit, and like you pointed me towards a quote from Philip Guston.
Yeah.
Where you were saying that you think about it a lot, especially in context of the last few years and what's happening in Gaza. And the quote is, the war, and Guston's talking about the war in Vietnam, but the war, what was happening to America, the brutality of the world. What kind of man am I, sitting at home, reading magazines, going into a frustrated fury about everything, and then going into my studio to adjust a red to a blue?
Yeah, I think about that like every day nearly. I think it's like it's self-explanatory, but just seeing things that have been happening in the world, it's had a kind of profound impact on many people, obviously, but like me trying to make work, and to be honest, even thinking about art a lot of the time, or like me trying to keep an art career going, and like every day kind of seeing inhumanity that's kind of, it's unbearable. It's just, sometimes I just kind of really struggle with that. Kind of like, what's the point of painting at all? So I think that's something that's pretty prominent in everything as well. And also kind of wondering, like, I can paint a mural or something, but everything feels quite insignificant in actions and things. And I just think that quote kind of makes a lot of sense for, to be honest, how I have been thinking about art.
I guess it places you also in a continuum with other artists, with like somebody like Guston, who's like thinking these things through and like trying to find a way to not feel like, to maintain an integrity as well as maintaining a practice. Yeah, I think so. Just trying like to keep the ball and keep the show on the road or something. But it's like, it's just crazy what we're seeing going on in the world. Yeah.
Seems really pathetic to follow that conversation with my question. But I suppose talking about material processes and labour and the difference between painting canvases and painting walls. Like there's books and books full of things about pigments and how paint is made, and there's people whose jobs are conservators and blah blah blah. How much consideration or like time or maybe like time or consideration do you put into thinking about what colour goes on the wall in here? Was it like off the shelf colour? Did you like take a lot of time to pick the colour for this particular green? Like you could have gone 2 shades darker. When I'm sitting here, I can actually see the colour of your chairs matching quite closely to that, and I think that, like if you're talking about micro and macro, that choice is actually quite significant to create the atmosphere in this room, and so I'm just very curious about how you approach that.
Yeah, I kind of had it in my head, is the kind of first part of the answer, that it was going to be green. It was going to be something, I had an olive green in my head, something along this. Me and Dad were in the studio and we were looking around at the paintings. This was in the studio. There's a lot of purple in the work. This massive grey piece. So from there, we were kind of thinking something around this, all right. But then Da has a huge, it's like a colour matcher thing. So you've got every kind of colour with, there's hundreds of shades in it. And Dad actually had a tub of paint that we were trying to get the colour as close to the colour that I was thinking about, and we just couldn't get it there. So I just had a look, picked 2, got 2 tester pots, and one of them was the one. Just tried it in there in my studio, and then just tested it out, painted a block, and just had some of the paintings in it. So I suppose a bit of thought, but to be honest, that was the only idea I had, was like a thing this size and putting some paintings up, and I don't have much space in my studio. I'll probably hear TE back. And this was only painted, finished a half an hour before the show started, so to be honest, it was pretty nerve-wracking. It could have went fairly wrong, fairly quickly.
That's so relevant, like that's part of the, I don't know, like that it was only finished half an hour before. That's just like the reality of being a painter and a painter. Like,
I mean, that was by design as well, was it? Like, in terms of like the performance ends when the paintings go on the wall. And
So yeah, it was kind of, now like that, if you're like if you're pricing jobs or something, you can only get as good an idea from what you've done before in your head to do something, but oftentimes you don't really know. But what we did do was, I kind of skimmed the walls here, with kind of plaster or like a filler thing, and then we actually just painted this section here to get a bit of an idea. So we kind of knew, and then painted a section, because I needed somewhere to lean the paintings for the performance. So we done in around the back of this section. But like, still saying that, even tell you, the room looked so much different when there was loads of white. So we still like that didn't know, but we had a bit of an idea. But part of that was to see how much paint it was using and how long it was taking. But I got a half an hour break instead of an hour as well, so fairly all go. But we were finished before 6, so yeah. But it was a bit chancy too, yeah.
I like that story though, that the tools of the house painting trade were needed for, like, to have that block to be able to see if you could find the color.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And actually, funnily enough about that as well, I got the RAL number off it. It was off, that has a Dulux one. And I wanted to go to Crown Paints here on Camden Street. And I went in with the number, and your man said, "Oh, we don't do that. We can't match them here." And he said, "Well, you have to go and get it." And then he gave me the Crown version of that. and I just had to kind of, from memory, kind of pick it. So, but I got it fairly right. But yeah, I think it's a nice colour anyway. I think it suits the work. I have 5 litres of it left, so if anyone wants the job done.
Okay. Do we have time for one more, or?
Sure. It's not really a question,
Yeah.
sorry, it's an observation. I was just thinking about how Sarah mentioned at the start to do with the kind of truths or materials, and like that sort of material concern in terms of like that there's equal weighting in making the canvas as there is to the painting the wall, to painting the canvas itself. And then it struck me with the way that you talked about the work as well, just the kind of honesty of it. There's almost like a truth to the subject matter as well as the material. Just like in terms of the painting already being stuck to the wall, and you just being very forthcoming about that. Yeah, just the honesty of it is really nice.
Thanks very much, Lucy. Thanks.
Okay, thank you again, everybody, for coming. Thank you to Palace as well for hosting this, and
Thank you very much for doing it with me.